Hello, everyone. We are about to begin panel 2. Before we do so, may I remind everyone to please silence their cell phones. And also, when we break for lunch, please use the side doors instead of going through the back door, just to control crowd flow. And with that, I will hand it over to Evan.
Cool. Thank you very much. So is this, maybe it's a little low for me. There we go. All right. So is this volume okay for everybody? Does this work? All right. I guess we have an overflow room. So hello to all the people in the back that we can't see from up here on the panel. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you to that massive Oscar-winning speech sort of list of thank yous that came from Susan up front. So this has been great fun to plan, along with some USF alums, some USF professors, and some USF students. And so hopefully you guys find this valuable today, and we're very happy to be here. So I'm going to let this wonderful panel say a couple words to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. So, Kate.
Hello, there it goes. Hi everyone, my name is Kate Black. I oversee the privacy and data protection function at 23andMe, which is a personal genetics company. Are you guys familiar? Hands of show, okay, that's pretty good, I'll take it. How many of you are customers? Okay, hopefully we can improve that number a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. I've been at 23andMe for about 3 years now. I was the first person in a privacy and data protection function, so have stood up their kind of information governance program from start until now. Before that, I spent a couple of years at the Department of Health and Human Services doing primarily electronic health record, privacy and security, regulatory work, and then before that was at a nonprofit called the Center for Democracy and Technology, doing health privacy, digital advocacy.
Hello, my name is Joshua Delarios Hyman. I'm Managing Director of Data Law, a San Francisco law firm that specializes in data and the law. Even though I'm San Francisco based and we're boutique, we have clients on lots of continents because everyone wants to know about California privacy law. I'm also vice chair of the California Bar Association, California Lawyers Association, we just changed our name, Internet and Privacy Committee, we're co-sponsors here. Basically, we just have money for some cocktails at the end. You guys did a great job organizing it, but we're really excited that this is going on. The California Bar Association approves of this message. I don't know if my law firm does.
All right.
As far as I'm sure, I am sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't realize this was a sponsor panel. So I'm Bill Kellerman. I'm eDiscovery Information Governance Counsel at Hanson Bridget, and an alumni of USF. I was working in tech companies in operations, went to law school at night here, and what that led to was an inherent bias. So when I was a first-year lawyer, I had a case where I actually taught myself how to do a forensic acquisition of a hard drive using undocumented features in Norton Ghost. Anybody know what Norton Ghost is? I see one guy, right? So I've had a long and checkered relationship with information, technology, data, computer forensics, that type of thing. And I'm going to start it off or end my intro with a question. I'm not cool. Why do I have stickers on my laptop? I mean, look at Evan and Kate. They have stickers on their laptop. Why is that a cybersecurity? Any guess? What? So here's a guy in the back. Why?
To cover up the audio or the microphone.
Oh no, I actually have the little thing that I can hide the camera. But again, I'm not that cool. So actually, I had a case where a CEO's laptop went onto the belt at SeaTac and was picked up and absconded with, and then I had to try to explain to the SEC why we didn't have a forensic image of that CEO's laptop during the investigations around the savings and loan meltdown. And that's the simplest way to differentiate your laptop from the identical MacBook Air that the next guy in line has. And so you know if somebody tries to pilfer it, that you can instantly identify it. So I'll leave you with that.
Great. So my name is Devin LeBlanc. I'm a manager of privacy and assurance function within the security or information security org at a company called Epidemic, which is a Cisco subsidiary. And I also do a bunch of security product counseling, sort of with our legal team and our engineering teams. So yeah, this is actually, I put the stickers on to be cool, number one. But number two, we all get, in my company of 1,600 people, we all get issued the exact same laptop. And they all, right, they look the same until you unlock them. Hopefully, if you have one of these new ones, security feature, use the Touch ID. Like set that up now. That's one of those sort of two-factor strong kind of practices we can all get into. But no, he makes an excellent point. Very simple things you can do in your life to sort of protect your information and the hardware and the systems that store that information. So very, very good point. But at the end of the day, I just want to be cool.
Yeah.
So we're just going to jump right in. I'm going to do like just a very short presentation here, and then I'll sit down and we'll have kind of a conversation. So I want to start with a syllogism, mostly because I've always wanted to say that word in public. But this is here not to get you to agree with it, not to get you to, take it as gospel or anything. This is just here as sort of a thinking device for all of us, because I think people hear the word data and they assume, oh, digital. There's a lot of term of art, technology, sort of infrastructure, coding. Oh my God, I don't know, right? And I think that's part of the problem, right? Is that we don't have these mental models where we can easily analogize, kind of what's going on in the digital world versus what we're familiar with in the physical world. So this is a syllogism to get us started. So people invest in security for things they value. Data is valuable. People invest in data security. And so our panel today is going to talk really about how we as lawyers can invest in this whole notion of data security, which is the corollary sort of topic to data breach, right? And I think we heard the prior panel talk about this pretty clearly, actually, is that you see the investment occurring after something has happened. We want this investment to start occurring earlier in the process, and that's one of our messages to you. And so we're going to think about this topic after we explore some of the ways that data is valued and the ways we think about this. And then we'll look at it sort of in the ethics context and sort of what we can do practically as lawyers. But let's look just quickly at some of the ways that data security is implicated in the ways that we value data. So I think we heard the first panel set this up really well. Sort of those first few bullet points there would be Nancy's presentation. Data has a monetary value. I'd say more and more it's just a direct proxy for fiat money. Bitcoin is data, information traded on a market. So we're there, right? So there's obvious monetary value. Cost of compromise. This is sort of from the consumer standpoint. How much do you value your personal information? What's your credit card number worth to you? What's your retirement account worth to you? Cost of compromise from the business standpoint is litigation risk. Where am I exposed with the data that I'm collecting and responsible for storing? And those costs of compromise can be pretty high these days. I mean, the Sony breach, the PlayStation breaches, just Google Sony PlayStation breach, you will find all kinds of information. Those two situations cost Sony out of pocket basically well over $100 million in each case. So they can be wildly expensive depending on what actually occurred and how many consumers were affected. You've got the reputation harm that links up with that. So businesses really need to think about that a lot. And the importance of understanding that is that as lawyers, especially those who are working in businesses or advising business-oriented clients, you need to understand that this is the context they're living in. They worry about this stuff, so you need to be worried about it too, because that's how you understand their situation and give them advice. National security considerations would probably be the other obvious one. I think we heard from MK about that pretty clearly. But then there are these sort of more proximate ones that are kind of second order ways that we can think about the value of data security and how investments in data security create this secondary, tertiary orders of value. And that would be, what our understanding of the cyber capability of how nation states behave and those bad actors behave that MK was talking about, staying at pace with them, right? They are using the technology that's being developed against the technology that's being developed every day. So you have to kind of work within that system, stay at pace with development. And then there's this, boom in cyber risk insurance, which we had a great ability to hear some about on the first panel. So these are just this is just some of the framework, and I wanted to give some concrete kind of foundation to our thinking, so that you can have that today for our discussion, but then also that we can take that away into your practice. And so we'll look at, let's see. These are basically the two ways we're gonna break this presentation out. We're gonna look at sort of how the lawyers on our panel, what are our touch points with data security in our daily lives as practicing lawyers, both from the client standpoint and from our own practice. And then we're gonna look at what investments we can make as lawyers to add value to our clients' experience and our own experience, vis-a-vis or via, I guess, the ethical duties of competence and confidentiality. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. So I get the first line of questions. We're going to go through these touch points, as I want to call them, and this is just to get a sense or a flavor for how lawyers see data security issues arise in their daily lives. We've got some experts here in the field, so some of their comments might be more obvious, but maybe some not obvious. So Kate, you want to start with just kind of how you see data security, data privacy, how do issues arise in your daily practice?
Sure, I'm happy to. Our company is about 500 people. We are an internet-based e-commerce company, and then run an entire kind of research engine on the back end on all of that data, with not only our internal scientists, but also a really broad array of external scientific collaborators. So as you can see, there's a lot of different kind of data movement and data ecosystems that pop up kind of every day for us. And we kind of see that play out in every manner and interaction. I think the benefit of being a Silicon Valley company is that everyone in the organization is very data forward, data aware, very privacy and security conscious. So the majority of the questions we get are kind of, we have 5 options, or this is our easiest way, like what do we need to do? What's the best path forward? Help advise me on that. And a lot of times the privacy and security conversations get very conflated. People don't understand necessarily the differences between those two things. And for our size and for our function, I think that's entirely okay and makes sense. I'm happy to kind of bundle all of that into one and advise you on it all. Obviously wrapping everyone in, but some really common questions just come up on like, what kinds of customer information can we put in an email? We have a batch of data. How should we send it to this hospital who's not a very sophisticated security entity? We're negotiating an agreement. What's reasonable for our security standards? So all of the like general kind of business day-to-day activities come up, and I'd say there's no question too large or too small to fit into that bundle, because it really is that robust, comprehensive program that you need that answers all the big questions and the minutia of every day in order to really protect the set of information that we have.
So I have a general practice across a wide array of commerce. things that are in common in this area are they're all technology, mostly of some sort or another. And I'm a crazy privacy person. And so everything I do has a privacy component. That's because I have seen too many things in my career that could have been prevented had people thought about privacy a little bit earlier. So when I'm dealing with startup technologists, privacy comes up immediately in the first beginning of the formation. If people are saying, hey, I have this great idea with my friends, we want to make a startup using technology. I'll say, well, that's great, and you need to start talking about the business plan and stuff. Privacy needs to be in that, and data encryption, all that sort of stuff needs to be in that initial part. And I'll tell you why. My venture capitalist clients and my funder clients, when they give me a deal to look at, I say, well, what's their privacy plan? What are they doing to deal with data breach? What are they dealing with data encryption? And usually, well, now most of my clients I've had for a while, they don't ask why, but the answer to why is these breaches are really expensive. When I'm dealing with my healthcare clients, the HIPAA issues are constant. When I'm dealing with basic terms and services, the issues with who's going to pay in case of a data breach. So this comes up constantly. So I'm going to share with you today like some anecdotes and anonymize my data the best I can.
So, I can summarize the questions I get from clients in a couple of different verticals, starting with, do we really have to? Do we really have to do this? And it may take, the form of, you're recommending we put this clause in this contract for cloud services, and the cloud provider's like saying, absolutely, we're not going to do this. Do we really have to have it? And I say, yeah. This clause is actually designed to meet the cutting edge on what your legal obligations are as a business doing business in California, and I'll touch on that later. Or I will be kind of the old guy that they'll trot out to support a young in-house counsel who has an engineer who's come and said, okay, we're going to do this new product and feature, and these are all the things it's going to do, and this is the data it's going to collect, and can we do that? And the young lawyer will say, absolutely not. The engineer will say, well, my buddy's doing it over at Uber. Why not?
My buddy.
Right? I mean, that's happened more than once. And then, I'll get the phone call, and I'll come down, and we'll do the meeting, and we'll talk about, what are the legal ramifications? What are the risks? What is the implication on the business? Because I do try to understand that. I've been involved with startups that failed because they were too private, couldn't go viral. And so you have those kinds of balances that you have to do, and you have to help them get to where they need to be so that they can do something that's good for the business and good for their customer within a legal framework that is not always very clear in terms of what your actual responsibilities might be.
So do you this is just for all the panelists, do you feel that as your practice has progressed, maybe in the last couple of years, do you sense that your clients are more aware or more nervous about data issues? And is that why they're asking more questions, or do they feel like they need to ask the questions to sort of just ask the questions? What do you think the client's true awareness is of these issues, and where do you think it's coming from?
I mean, for us, I don't think so. I mean, we're kind of at the forefront of a new kind of group of technology companies, so everyone kind of thinks like, well, we're walking down this road, we've got to figure out how to pave it, and so they're very dedicated and very open to figuring that out and legitimately doing the best by our customers and by the business to set it up with the appropriate protections in place. Sometimes that plays out in a way that's, a lot of why questions. So like, explain the law to me again, explain how that, again, doesn't make any sense here, but we're going to do our best to apply it because it's the only framework that we've got. And especially across jurisdictional issues. So we operate a website globally and have to deal with the European Union, Asian Pacific laws, and that's when especially I think the confusion and lack of awareness really starts to pop up.
In my practice, I've noticed that people are far more interested in privacy and breaches than they've ever been. I actually get questions from the beginning, and I think that has to do a lot with the GDPR. People had no idea it was going to cost so much and be such a toothy thing. And I think Everett's going to talk a little bit about that later. But you just say, but because of GDPR, do you want to do business with any Europeans? And then, oh yeah, we kind of do. That's a big market. So that's sort of, yeah.